Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded June 16th, 2021. Hello, Franklin. Hello, Rod.
Hello, Edward.
Edward, it's good to see you. Oh my goodness.
Good to see you guys too, man. I didn't want to come back, but I missed you guys so much, right? I reverse defected and came back to the United States. I was gonna stay. I'm looking over here like, wait a minute, what is going on with Twitch? But that's something else is going on. That's like automation. Yeah. Oh man, it's good to be back. Hold on one second.
Oh, something's going on.
My wife has the TV just blaring in the house.
Maybe it's Twitch.
No, she's watching The Handmaidens. Yeah. Oh my God, it's a bloodthirsty show. You guys ever watch that show?
No.
The scary part about the show that it could happen. The way we're going around in that country, right? Oh man, so it was good to be back.
Well, first of all, Rod, how's the grandkid?
Oh my goodness. Did my first FaceTime with the grandkid today, believe it or not. So the daughter held it up and he's to the point where he recognizes my voice and I'm talking to him. He's raising his eyebrows, getting all excited. Of course, he can't really say anything yet, but it's awesome. Oh my goodness, it's awesome.
You said you want to see a picture of my dog, so let me show you a picture. Yes, you did.
His dogs are vicious, man. It's like the hounds of Baskerville.
I can't.
What are you drinking? Coffee out of a can?
Hey, by the way, Edward, it's good to have you back. I had to resort to gimmicks while you're away.
So how do you like this picture of my puppy dog there, huh?
Oh, look at him. Nice. Wow. He has more certifications than I do.
Look at all those victory ribbons there. Now, those are not participation ribbons. Those are like first, second, third place, overall winner. Look at that.
Wow.
I know, right?
He worked hard for that.
I mean, he passed the exam and he got the results. They came in, right? Not it.
Yeah, she did good. Yeah. Well, what we did want to talk about was this, though. Was this the finish line or is this the start?
That's the start.
Okay.
Everything started out well.
So explain to people that aren't watching. So I just showed a picture of my dog with many different ribbons from her competitions. So of course, not many participation ribbons, but actual victory ribbons. So now I'm showing a picture of Edward starting the race, the Great American River Run in Memphis.
Yeah. So
how did it go?
So Memorial Day weekend, I had been. A little bit of history. Up until this point, been running, training. I'm a marathoner. And this was a race I wanted to run. Had really been training hard, and I wanted to do Memorial Day weekend just before I went on vacation. So my goals was to drive to Memphis, race this race. This is a big race in Memphis, right? Win my division as well as my age group. I'm 50 plus, so I'm a grandmaster. So I wanted to win the overall grandmaster as well as I wanted to win my age group, double down, right? So I drive up there, best intentions, get up, shake, eat my pre-race meal the night before, got my mind ready, I line up, right? So they had 3 times to start. 6:15, if you're racing to place money, prizes, you got to run the very first wave. And because of COVID, they staggered the waves. Less competitors ran 6:30, and then those who are sort of more recreational, 6:45. So as you can see, nobody up front looks like they cannot run. So I line up with the elites. My thing is line up front like you're going to win, let everything play itself out. So I figured if I can run with the elites for a couple of miles, that will stretch me out from all the other people. And that worked. So I took off. And the person that won is the gentleman who has the bib number 1045, right? And so I take off and I'm running. So about 3 miles in, a little bit more, you start to lose these guys because we start turning corners, right? We're trying to keep this race along the waterline in the Riverside in Memphis, and then you're running in town. So basically you're running a square that eventually runs you back into the downtown Memphis Bill Street. So I'm running with this other guy who finally, you know, I catch up with at about mile 3. And I talked to him. I said, "Hey, what you doing? I'm from LA. I came down here to win the Grandmaster division." And I said, "Is that right?" "Yeah, I won it last year." "Is that right?" "Okay." So we started. "What about you?" Same thing. He said, "Well, let's run together." So I'm running with him, and I'm like, "Oh my God, we're running so slow." And I look down. I said, "This guy can't keep my pace." And I said, "If I stay with him, I don't know if he's faster than me. And if I get into a foot race, I don't know if I can beat him." So I said, "Let me put it to him." So I started dropping we were running like 720 a mile. I was like, I dropped it to 7. He was hanging. He started huffing. I said, let me drop it again. I got it down to about 6:45, 6 minutes and 45 seconds a mile. He started falling back. I said, one more time. Got it down to like 6:30, and he fell off. So around mile 7, he's nowhere to be seen. Right. I'm at least 800 meters in front of him. Now we're back in the city. So now we're making left and right turns. So I come up this hill, and they have a bonus section of the race called King of the Hill. The last quarter mile is uphill, and I do mean steep. You run over a mat that grabs your tag off your bib, and once you crest the hill and go down, whoever has the fastest quarter mile is deemed king of the hill, right? That's hard to do when you just finishing mile 8 going to mile 9. So I crest the hill. I wasn't trying to win it, of course. I go down the hill, and I see runners running at me, turning to their right. And because the elite runners and the super competitors are gone, I was in no man's land. That's what they call you getting gapped, meaning that you can't keep up with the front runners, but you're so far in front of the other folks. So I come down the hill and I asked the race marshal, I said, "Hey, which way do I go?" She said, "Turn left." I said, "No, no, 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 no. I'm with the 6:15 star group. I'm racing." She said, "Yeah, yeah, turn right. Turn left." I said, "No, I that can't be. It's too many people." "No, that's the trail end of the group that started." And I said, "Ugh." And I'm literally standing still, looking behind, see if anybody's catching me. Still no one there. She said, "Follow me." So she, on her bike, if you ever run a race, you know how they had the course marshals with the bikes and had it. I follow her. So I come up on one of the guys that's on my run group, and he goes, "CMO." I say, "What?" He said, "There's no way I passed you." And I got that feeling in my stomach. So I come up and I come to a water stop at mile 5, and the guy goes, "Oh my God, dude, you got an evil twin." I let out the largest F bomb that people stopped to turn around to see what was going on. So I got it, and I was about to quit. I did the calculation in my head. I said, "Oh my God, they've added 5 miles to my route." Because I'm in this circle. Remember, we're running like this till you get back to the center. And I said, I don't quit. Screw that. I'm not going to quit. So I started running, and I see this other group. And I ran up to them, and I said, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" They said, "Well, we're trying to get a half marathon up under 2 hours." I said, "What group did you start with?" "We started with the 6:30 group." I looked at my watch and said, "Not at this pace. You're not going to do it." I said, "I'll pace you guys in. Take that entire group. Come with me. I will run the slowest I can that will still get you up under 2 hours." So I was running back and forth up to the front, cheering them on, coming back to the back. "Come on, let's let I fall behind." And I got everyone in. The last person crossed in at 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 32 seconds. So I got everybody posted in. I looked down at my watch, and my watch clocked me at 17.54 miles. But I really did 18 because I forgot to start it for the half mile time. And then I did a little bit of math. I ended up running like 7:22 a mile. So that's okay. You help some people get in. It was a great training run. It proves that I'm in shape. Guess who won the Grandmaster division? And a big old trophy, a plaque literally this big, like a 43-inch TV, and a check and a bunch of gift cards. The guy that I was racing against from LA, that I was putting it to, he won. And I just looked at him on stage. I was like, "Is that right?" You're talking about somebody that was just bad taste. But that's okay, though. Got to see a bunch of my guys in my group, my running organization. Got to run really well. I drowned my sorrows in tequila by spending 2 weeks in Mexico, man. But it was all right. I'm gearing up for my next half marathon.
Did they give you a participation ribbon?
Oh, I got a medal, and then
There you go.
What happened is that it was really windy in Memphis, so the sign that tells you to turn right had blown over, right?
Okay.
And they were short staffed. COVID, there was nothing normal about this race, right? So when I came back the second time and went down the hill, even the people who were at the last stoplight, wow, you just run and put miles in, aren't you? The sign they had picked back up, and had I turned right, I would have beat the dude that won by 4 minutes because he won with an hour and 32 minutes. I was 4.5, 5 minutes in front of him, right? And it was hard to race too, right? There's nobody to run against, so you're running against the clock. So I just set into my Garmin, and then I set my Garmin at half-mile intervals, right? I don't want to go the whole mile to realize I was either running too fast or running too slow. You can adjust it every half mile, right? I'm too slow, or I'm too fast, right? You can slow it down,
So,
but it's no big deal.
but when you told me the story, what I found most interesting was, first of all, how much trash talk you had with the other guy that you told me about that you didn't mention here, and then you actually, after all that trash talking, that happened to you, and you actually turned something that was pretty negative and turned it into a positive situation for those other runners. I mean, that says a lot about your character in doing the race. No matter how much I tease about stuff or whatever, that shows a lot of character.
Yeah, there's some other good pictures, man, that they put out where all the folks were giving me high fives and hugs and say thank you so much. They didn't realize how hilly it was. I really didn't realize Memphis is hilly. You don't have enough room to run, so you got to loop. And if you go downhill, you got to go back uphill. So, and then we hit the headwind going back. But I'm trying to see if the guy that won that division's in that picture. He is. Yeah, he is. If you're looking at the picture, the guy in the white shirt behind the guy that's taking off with the Nike and the flowing hair. God, that's a lot of hair, but he's running. I think that's the dude. I can't see his bib, but yeah, man. And the guy who's right behind me, he's a young man in his late 20s. He won the King of the Hill. Oh my God, he hit that hill and he ran a steep incline, and he made that 400 meters in less than 60 seconds. You know, I mean, like this, huge angle. He's really good. We're going to recruit him for our team. The guy that's in the shirt that's behind me is on my race team. He took seventh overall,
Okay.
and he came in third in Masters. So Masters meaning 40 and over. You would think that the younger guys dominate this. The hardest division racing overall, when you look at all the average time, is 40 to 44. 40 to 44-year-old runners get it. It is hard. And there are a lot of reasons why men get stronger in distance as we get older. And a lot of these guys are senior in their career, their time, whatever. So they got plenty of time to train. They can take off doing lunch to go run, go do all these things. These guys were getting it. I ended up placing like a 237th. Well, it had me at 206 for a final finish time, 210. So it thought I ran the half marathon in 2 hours and 10 minutes, but when you add in the other 5 minutes, right? But I got the other
Yeah.
people in, so it's doing the math. The people behind us started a different time doing that. But I sort of did the math in my head, and I told the group, I said, "You guys don't come on. You're not going to make that time. I'll pace you. I'll run the slowest that I think we need to run." And I say, I will not know until we get to around mile 11. You got to have some left because if we're behind, we're going to have to pick it up. If we're ahead, we can coast a little bit. And luckily, we were right on time. We might have been 10
Well, I want to see
seconds off.
the pictures of you and the group. So I mean, let's get that out there.
Yeah, I'll find it. And here's the other thing: you got to buy the damn pictures, right? Because I wanted to buy them without having the word proof on them. You know how you do the race. You got to
Yeah,
buy them.
yeah,
So I bought it. It's expensive. I mean, this photo right here, man, costs $25.
Oh,
I guess
if there's a good picture of you with that group, then I'm definitely buying it. So
yeah. And then you get to put your own captions, right? Leading by example, not by giving examples. And you go get at it. So I thought about you the whole time I was racing. I said, man, Frank is going to choke on this crow he's going to eat. This crow is going to be bitter. And the feathers are just teeming with mites as he eat them, right?
well, you'll get to get your revenge tonight, because we're going to be talking about some of the latest enhancements in the product, and there's been an enhancement into the watch list side. So let's dive into the security stuff then. All right, so
I didn't say that relaxed.
Rod had to send me this this update that just came out today about what's new, the Azure Sentinel update watch list UI enhancement. So, Rod, tell us what they've done here with the watch list UI.
Hold on before Rod. Shout out to Chris Munez. He's been on the show. He's a guest of the show, friend of the show. Christopher, great work, sir, on the write-up, if you're listening. Go ahead, Rod.
So yeah, this is just a piece of it. There's a couple other pieces to this as well. This was kind of released a little bit earlier today. If you go in your Azure Sentinel console and you don't see this capability, you need to log out and log back in, because it's a cache thing. Since I'm in the console all day long, I regularly find that somebody will announce something, I don't have it. I have to log out and log back in to get it. But the watch list feature, which is Frank's favorite, I knew he would love this.
My biggest problem with watch lists was the not having the ability to update the watch list.
Yeah. Well, and so we're halfway there, I think, right? So and this is, of course, I had a discussion with a customer a week ago that, and I get it somewhat, that they hate public previews. They hate beta testing things, particularly when it's only half a feature or whatever. I get it, but there's like 95% of our customers that absolutely love to test things and get a good sense of what the feature is going to be before it's publicly released. Watch lists, of course, have been in public preview for, I don't know, what, 6 months, 8 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Capability just literally to be able to import CSV files, lists of IP addresses, bad domains, whatever it happens to be. Watch lists are intended to create kind of trusted lists or exclusion lists or whatever you need to utilize for security. Maybe bad domains where you want to be notified when users access those in your environment, or maybe it's IP addresses that you don't want to capture as part of your investigative dragnet. So you can exclude those from the analyzing of the data. So this has been out there for a little bit. It's been a manual process. You walk through a wizard and you import CSV files. The piece that customers have absolutely wanted was the ability to update these watch lists. In the past, with the partial functionality, you literally had to delete the watch list you imported and then just import something brand new after it was updated. You update your CSV file. Now we have the capability, starting today in the public preview, to be able to modify those watch lists that you've already imported. So you can add your own, add a few different IP addresses, add a few different rows and columns to your watch list, kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. Also, and not part of this page that Frank has up, but it also supports ARM templates. So I'm going to throw in the chat here, if I can do that. There's a ARM template to deploy all of the Azure public IP addresses that you can deploy as a watch list within Azure Sentinel today. Because a lot of customers are like, well, I want to know those IP address ranges for those different regions for Azure and those different services, because somebody runs Cloud Shell in Azure and it's reporting them as running PowerShell, and it's an IP address that I don't know who manages this range, but because of being able to import this watch list the way it is through this ARM template and it stays updated, then again, you're not going to capture these IP addresses when somebody runs Cloud Shell or something like that. So you can build some intelligence around that. So there's those two capabilities.
Yeah. Can you, in watch list, can you designate a particular alert? Meaning that if this alert comes from MCAS about impossible travel, because that's still an issue with MCAS, right? And a lot of impossible travels are benign positives, right? You're doing something. But I wonder if I sit here and I said, if you see this from this subset of the users and our time periods, right?
Yeah.
Exclude those type of alerts.
You can, yeah, you can
Okay.
absolutely do that. Yeah. In the analytics rule itself, you can do that through some filtering, but you can also use our new automation rules, right, to capture users, specific IP addresses, tags if you want to do it that way, to exclude those things. A lot of times, in particular, what you're talking about, so Defender, MCAS are a couple good couple good examples. A lot of times, those alerts get pulled over and synced in the Azure Sentinel console, and guess what? The originating service is already taking care of it. It's just literally a notification that, hey, we found this and we took care of it.
Yeah.
But the beauty of pulling that into Azure Sentinel, because of the intelligence built into Azure Sentinel here, you're going to take that MCAS thing and apply it to a security event, or you're going to apply it to a Cisco device. So you're going to be able to capture the entire storyline of what happened versus just what MCAS saw and took care of. MCAS may have done its job, but in relation to the other data that we have and expose here and tying it together, you may find the originating source for that issue that, you can shut that port down. Maybe it was a port that's unmanaged or something that allowed that intrusion or something like that. So there's still a good reason why to pull that stuff over.
So in the old days, I used to use the external keyword. I've been doing offensive stuff for a while to pull from blob storage, which would then have other systems that would actually write rows to the Excel file going on there. So is there anything with Power Automate or Logic apps for connectors to this, so you can actually have one system? There's an update in the HR system. Let's go ahead and update the watch list. So do we have anything like that on Logic apps or Power Automate yet?
So I do know of a couple playbooks that you can do that, but it really is kind of still a
Kludgy.
Yeah, it's still a replacement process. It's just you're automating the replacement instead of you having to do it yourself.
My customer that was using this, they didn't bother. They had a master template, and if something came to the watch list, they had multiple watch lists in the way they disseminated, which was what with date time naming in a CSV file.
Yeah.
So it was redundant, but they looked at what is the most current one, and they're all looking at the same thing, but it was easier just to add another watch list than it was to.
Right. So they could do that with the KQL side with the aggregates to get that
you can
through.
you can still do the external lookup if you want to do it that way.
Yeah, and then they just did like that, and until such time the function actually came. So with the customers, we were saying I hate private previews that have bait. No, it's not half baked. We give you a fully baked thing. It just doesn't fully satisfy what you think it should do. So either use it or don't use it, right?
Yeah.
But understand this is the limitations of it. Don't gripe about it.
But it will eventually. It will eventually go.
I think that we have to realize this product's maturing fast, and features, which is a good thing. I mean, old people like us that were used to waiting for 3 years for a new product to come out and get the updates, that's just not the way that it is. And, for me, from the training side, that's the thing that you have to deal with. I have to say that Rod and Brody have been great in our Discord server, but we've had questions around training, and more specifically around SC200. And I said, listen, you have to make sure that your instructor, because when that course material was written, that was before the unified portal, that was before all of these things coming out. And so you have to be able to have an instructor, if you're going to take that course with instructor-led training, that can handle the changes that have taken place on the product from when the course material was written, and also from an exam question standpoint. The instructor has to be prepared for that. So that was one of the frustrations that I saw from our Discord server, from somebody coming in saying, hey, we didn't get a lot out of this. I'm like, you have to watch the instructor. The other thing is that if I'm teaching the SC200 course, it's very forensics heavy, and so to be all an MCT has to do the only requirement for an MCT to teach the SC200 course is to actually pass the exam. They don't actually have to be in cybersecurity. So if you're going out taking any of the compliance and the identity stuff, make sure that the person actually has real world experience in what they're doing. So somebody coming to my class, they would have to say, yeah, I really want it to be forensics heavy. That's what I'm looking for in a class. So with that, let's talk about Azure Network Security Ninja Training. Is this, have we talked about this before? Is this new? I had not seen it before, I don't believe.
It's fairly new, and in fact, when somebody first posted it, wasn't Ninja Training in the first place. It was something else. But I think there was enough complaint because everybody wants Ninja Training versus just training. I think they added the Ninja stuff to it. So.
Yeah, nobody wants samurai training. I mean, that's not cool, right? That's not cheap. It's
Which
samurai training.
bothers me. These ninjas were like the deviants, right? And the
No, right?
Yeah.
So I want samurai training, right? I want to train with honor, right? I don't want to train out of the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about this, and this was definitely needed. Which is the makeup of this podcast, is that we are hyper focused on Azure Sentinel and a lot of the M365 stack. That sometimes we don't take enough time to look at security and compliance. We're getting better. We got Brody, Ingrid came on. We're going to have some more guests around S&C, but we solely sort of not really dived into the things that make up the Azure security DNA, things that are just inherent to the product, to the cloud environment itself, and things that if this was a data center, you would do. You would be looking at DDoS and WAF and everything else, but sometimes you sort of lose that perspective because you think, oh, the cloud, yes, I still need to purchase these workloads and configure them. This is solely needed to give someone not so much a marketing thing of what's available, but giving you a place to start, right? People ask me questions about probably our next topic coming up, like Azure Arc, and then from Azure Arc, how does Azure Arc interact with the Microsoft monitoring agent, or maybe the new AMA agent, and how does it interact with IoT? This helps stitch this stuff together, right? Out of the things that are in here, my strongest out of these things are probably WAF, and then probably DDoS, because I came from an Akamai environment, right? CDN, so I understand that better than most. But I'm totally lost when you talk about, Azure Firewall. Someone say, well, why would I use this rather than going to the marketplace and just buying a Cisco ICE or Palo Alto? And I go, you don't want a physical device, you want to put it here. Then you start to consider SD-RAN stuff. So the Azure Network Security Ninja Training at least gives you a starting point to go look at some stuff, right?
And I also go over all of the different learning objectives in the AZ500 certification, and drill down into all of those topics and learn that inside and out. Also, I mean, this covers a lot here, but definitely make this just part of what you're doing with AZ500.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's like Albert Einstein said, why do I need to fill my head with a bunch of stuff I can easily find in a book, right? I like these ninja trainings because they give you references to at least go get started, right? Where do I find this, right? And I don't want to have to go online and, oh, that's an ad, or I got to go to docs and I still got to go through all of this, right? Hey, this at least gives me the place, the first rock to step on in the stream so I can get to the other rocks, right? So, and this stuff is not easy. Anytime you got to correlate content and at least try to keep it reasonably updated, that's a daunting task. I got huge respect for trainers.
See that Anthony Roman co-author over there? He's actually the product group manager for Azure Network Security. Him and another colleague of mine wrote a book on this, just released, by the way.
Yeah. It's just released, really.
Yeah, I know Anthony. Yeah. And Mohat. Yep. Mohat's actually, I keep saying his name, Mohat. Do not know.
Yeah, when did that come out?
color.
Just May 12th, so that looks good. I'll
Yeah.
have to take a look at it. Do you know if that helps you prepare for the AZ500, or is this just focused on network security?
Just network security. Yeah.
So let me give everybody a quick tidbit because we always talk about these references. We put them in the show notes. Really, really quick before we go to the Azure Arc one, I think it's going to go next. Open up a tab real quick, Frank. Type in Azure Charts. I don't know about Azure Charts.
It's my keyboard
And so scroll down.
right there.
Yeah, awesome. This gentleman at Microsoft creates this interactive, cohesive web about interrelated technologies, everything from announcements to case study to win solutions, training. I don't know if he's in the Ukraine or not. Awesome stuff, right? And I highly recommend this as a bookmark. It will look at learning. He's already mapped it to MS Learn. If you want to look at solutions, I met the gentleman 8 months ago, and this was just like a little passion project for him at Microsoft. It has turned into this. Now, there's two different versions of it, as I believe. There is a public version, and then if you're at Microsoft, you can see the internal version, sort of like a markup version. This in combination, as you do your research and see what's going on, this is great. And you can see the interrelationships between the technologies. So I use this sometimes to help stitch together and make the light come on for certain customers. Look at the reference architectures, right, on Azure App Services in itself. So you can search Sentinel in it, and or if you just want to search on security, it has all that stuff there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go over to Azure Arc for Security Engineers. This was published May 19th. So we've talked about Azure Arc in the past. Anybody want to give this a stab here?
I'll give it. It's an overlay and a wrapper to be able to take on-premise workloads as though they were Azure hosted, right? Especially things that seem to be a little long in the tooth, and you can't find a direct way to be able to secure these things because they don't have a way to be able to extend the security the way you would if you were an IaaS or a PaaS workload. So Azure Arc, think of it as an extension of the security features in Azure Defender, as well as the ability to pull logs as such. Uh, this is great for places that seem to can't get out of their own way because things take precedence. Healthcare, that find themselves vulnerable all the time because in healthcare, you don't want the latest and greatest, especially when it comes to people's, you know, uh, healthcare needs, equipment needed for these things. Those manufacturers um, tend to lag behind a lot of times in modernizing their applications and the technologies. Like there are certain tools in healthcare that can only run on this type of processor or this type of thing. So Azure Arc allows you to be able to extend this out, right? If there is no other industry that can take a bigger advantage of this, I think that number one would be healthcare. And number two would be higher ed. Um, it tends to be a lot of time that mass adoption of technology without the sense of consequence about the security ramifications are not totally finishing up a deployment of something. But Azure Arc allows you to be able to extend that out.
All right, so I don't understand Azure Arc. They say Azure Arc. I mean, what, in the simplest form, what does it do?
So Azure Arc is nothing more than it's going. I think it's going to be built into the new Azure monitoring agent. It is a installation of a security circle envelope bubble that allows you to be able to extend some of the same extensions monitoring that you would if you had a. You know how you install um, you deploy Azure VM and
So,
then you
so
get to add the VM extensions. Imagine being able to extend it.
basically, so you install the Arc agent, and then basically it appears as like another virtual machine within inside the Azure portal, right?
Yes, and the differentiator lets you know that what you're doing is doing a simulation of that. You'll notice that it identifies one as being a native VM in Azure, and the other one says Azure Arc. So if you scroll back up,
Yeah.
that's the easiest way to do it.
So
And
then a lot of the one-click deployment that I have within inside Azure out to virtual machines, it just becomes a one-click deployment instead of the manual process that you would normally do out on that on-prem virtual machine.
So let me put it this way. From the time that I actually had my hands into it, it has evolved a lot. It used to be a little bit of a pain that if you didn't read the instructions, you missed something, you say, oh, it doesn't work. It has gotten much better.
Okay.
I was actually talking to our Azure CSA, and oh God, I forget her name. We can definitely get her on the show to talk about it a little bit more detail. For me, I'm only gonna be able to talk about it in its base functionality as though I'm a salesperson, right? 200 level. I don't just deal in it all the time, but it has gotten much better as far as the deployment. Christopher Muniz can really talk about it too, I think, from the CXC side. Rod should know this stuff. He's an Azure CSA. He needs to know all things Azure, right?
Yeah.
DDoS, WAF, Kubernetes. I heard he was a CyberX expert too now. So
The only reason why this excites me is because the Azure Monitor agent was released this week.
Yep.
And to include on-prem Windows servers and Windows devices, Azure Arc has to be installed first, and then the Azure Monitor agent can be. What the Azure Monitor agent brings is the ability to filter out, using XPath, being able to filter out, or filter in, I should say, certain event IDs. So you save ingest costs.
Mhm.
So
yeah, and that was a recent release too, right? Yeah.
this week.
Yep, sure it was.
Yep.
This is super huge for those who they need this type of protection as they make their digital transformation, right? I always tell customers, secure the environment before you start moving workloads. Have a secure place where you land rather than get it there. Then it's like, all right, once everything's, and I understand it. Sometimes the security gets in the way of making this smooth. Like, oh my God, the VNet's locked down or this. I'm just going to get everything there. Once it's there, then I'm going to deploy Azure Defender for servers. Probably not a good idea, right?
So Thomas is a good friend of mine. I could ask him to come on if you'd like.
Sure.
All right.
Don't know this gentleman.
Next week we go ahead.
No, who do we need him next week?
No, next week we have Defender for Endpoint finally. So I'm happy to say. So the following week we can look at having.
Who's coming on? Yodis is coming on, or you're on next week? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It will be a surprise.
Well,
We'll have to ask. I have to tell you right now, which out of the 4 products, which one would I deploy first? I would actually choose Defender for Office.
I'm going there too. It makes sense because you got to go where the top infection point may be.
Well,
right?
And so Rod had brought this up before, and I thought about it more because what is the effort to deploy Defender for Office? What is the lift to do that?
Man, it's very light. Just out of the box EOP and a lot of the ATP stuff is already there. You're just creating and fine tuning policies.
Right. I mean, so I'd have to say that I would do that one first because the lift is so small and the benefit is so great. It's the first one you would do no matter what.
But my strong number 2 is MCAS.
My strong number 2 would be Defender for Endpoint, and then MCAS, because what's the lift of doing MCAS after you do Defender for Endpoint?
Well, what's the lift of doing MCAS before you do Defender for Endpoint? MCAS has almost zero impact on customers calling you like, I can't do this now. Why can't I install FileZilla?
So if you don't have your identity managed, you have no security.
I think Rod's comment.
All right, so Rod has now moved over to Microsoft Defender for Identity.
Yeah.
So none of us can actually stay on one product for longer than 3 months.
Alex Simon don't pay them off. That's what happened. Alex Simon paid them off. Let's say it. Alex, you out there, man? Come on the show. This is Ed. You owe me a favor from DC.
All right. Oh, this one is very interesting. Introducing Azure Sentinel Solutions.
It's also confusing.
Why is that?
I've had a couple customers over the past couple weeks. Do I enable a data connector, or do I go to the solutions area to enable that data connector?
All right, so what are Azure Solutions first?
It's very much like a marketplace like Azure has for everything else that we have. It's a marketplace for Azure Sentinel. So we have partners develop their solutions. What do you have on the page there? There's a few more than that. Senserva, good partner of ours, has created something, but it's a package. So it's a package solution. Whatever the solution is here, they're going to include the connector, the parsers, the workbooks, the analytics rules, everything about that solution, and it's one-click deploy versus the old method of enable a data connector, enable the analytics rules, enable a workbook if you want to use it, so it takes a little bit of the time off of the deployment, whatever that solution is.
Shout out to me for being on a product group to say you need to do this, because I got tired of customers saying what's best practice, right? There is no best practice. There is really what's going to be best use case for you. This is similar to when someone wrote the solution when it was sort of like unsanctioned, that you could go to GitHub and you can still see something that says deploy to Azure. They build a lot of this stuff out. So a lot of ARM, a lot of deployment stuff in the background happens for you. The biggest thing you need to make sure of is that I tell customers you need 3 things to make any of this stuff work. This should be your troubleshooting. Subscription, how you pay for it, tenant, where you put it, and permissions. Because if you got to troubleshoot those 3 things, those are generally going to keep you from doing what you need to do. I beat my head against a rock today to realize I didn't have permission to go make a change. I'll help a customer make a change to a log ingestion cap that they had. We couldn't figure out why everything kept stopping. Like the connector's broken. We stopped getting data. I'm like, I don't know. And they said it happens randomly through the day. I'm like, go to the log analytics workspace. So I look at it and I go, 0.5. It never occurred to me. So I sort of glanced to the right, and they had put a ingestion cap on it, and I didn't have permission to change it because you got to be GA. I think you got to be GA on it, and that's what was preventing the logs from coming in. So it would crash early morning some days, later in the day some days. It would just stop, and they weren't looking at the warning. So what the key point is, when you look at the log analytics workspace, you'll see like a little exclamation point yellow that we have an error. Go look at it, and then I saw it. I was like, "Oh, you have reached a log ingestion cap set. Go here." And I clicked on it. I was like, they set it to 0.5 gig because they had an incident where they got a big bill at the end of the month. Big bill. So somebody in their infinite wisdom say, we'll cap it. So I don't think they meant to put 0.5. I think they meant to put 5. And that's what was happening. But this is just an automated way to do it. This is really cool though.
So Rod, I got a question for you. Do you have to do the connector first or no?
When you use a solution, no, the connector is included.
Okay. Now, here's my next question. Do you have to pay for these solutions?
So they're in preview. They are free. I don't believe we have a paid solution yet. My guess is, and I'm just going to hypothesize here that yes, there will be paid solutions eventually.
Okay, so let me be the Debbie Downer here and bring up one of the reasons why. So there's, this thing called the Power Platform and Dynamics, right?
Yep.
So a lot of vendors created solutions for those platforms, and then Microsoft came out with the ISV Connect program and basically said, okay, here's the deal. And the guy running it at the time actually said this. If you don't join into our program, ISV Connect, then basically our sales reps are going to tell all of the potential customers that your product's not secure and all this other fun stuff, right? And so to join the ISV Connect program, it's free to join, but guess what? You're giving up 10 to 20% of your revenue to join the program, right? So you're kind of being forced to join because you're going to get trashed in front of your prospects by the Microsoft sales reps. So you're basically now going to have to give up 10 to 20% of your revenue. So ISVs that actually had taken in, investment money, VC, all that other fun stuff, all of a sudden now they're actually owned by Microsoft, because Microsoft could turn around and say, now it's 30%. Okay. So for me being an ISV Connect, I'm like, and you guys are complaining about the App Store from Apple and what's going on there. We basically were threatened by Microsoft by what was going on, right? So if you take a look at somebody like DocuSign, okay, in theory, if they have a connector in there, they should actually be giving up 10 to 20% of their revenue to Microsoft. So it ended up being that now ISVs are saying, see ya, I don't even want to be involved with this, or even established companies are saying, listen, I don't want to get caught up in all this stuff, and they don't want to put in connectors or whatever for the Power Platform. To me, Microsoft provided no value, and it was just kind of a money grab situation. Now they're trying to come up with ways to actually make some value out of it. So I really hope, as a matter of fact, they sent me a little survey, the ISV Connect thing, and I said all sorts of nasty things. And of course, at the bottom, they said, check box, would you like one of our reps to contact you? I checked the little box, and that was 3 months ago. I haven't heard from anyone, shockingly. So I hope, I hope that this solution marketplace does not end up being in that situation, because I think that what you'll see is that these vendors will say, why am I going to give Microsoft 10 to 20% of my revenue just to actually have a solution with inside Sentinel? So I hope that does not take place in this scenario.
So I'm looking at mine. So there's, since this blog post announcement was released, there's quite a few others. It obviously is part of the solution. You can see there, like Oracle, it says Azure Sentinel, Microsoft Corporation. That was created by us. We have quite a few more from some of our partners, and I'm looking at them right now as far as it looks like this, well, at least currently, solutions are free, but down at the bottom of some of these, it's like an advertisement, more offers from this company. And it says, it actually gives on a couple of these things, hey, here's some other things, some add-ons you can have for like $1,000 a month or something like that. So,
and then all of a sudden Microsoft's going to want their 10 to 20% of that because you're going through the marketplace. So I'm just saying that people have to be concerned about that scenario, because I personally think it's been a disaster over in the Power Platform side.
I think that your experience is probably more indicative of the group at Microsoft that runs that program rather than what we're doing, what they're doing on the security side. Because I'm looking at Checkpoint, and there are 4 different offerings outside of the Checkpoint Sentinel solutions. I suspect that there's pretty good scrutiny about what is included in these deployed solutions, so that even if there are a cost related to it, it is very minimum. Like if I see something that has a playbook and I'm familiar enough to understand what the cost of running playbooks are, I'm not as concerned, right? But if I see something that doesn't clearly identify that this connector is going to ingest this type of data, and then that data has a per gigabyte liability, then I'm a little bit concerned. As I'm going through and reading the terms and conditions, I don't really see that.
But it changed over on the Power Platform side, right? Because the VC people before probably would not have invested in those companies if they knew that Microsoft could change the terms at any time. And basically at that point in time, those companies are owned by Microsoft. That's the big fight going on right now with the Apple App Store. So I'm just saying that I hope that it does not go down this path here. Hopefully Microsoft's happy to just for people to be using Sentinel instead of trying to get money out of the solution providers that are putting solutions out of here. Where would Windows be today if they tried to charge for every single exe that was created? And so that's just my concern about this. I think it's a great feature, but I would actually be concerned in this area, and hopefully Microsoft could clarify that, hey, no, we're not going to be charging the solution providers, because I just know a lot of ISVs that said, see you later, we're out of here, dealing with the Power Platform. And so you don't want customers being stuck in that situation. I don't
Well,
want to deploy something that Microsoft then turns around to the ISV and says, hey, by the way, we're going to take 10 to 20% of your revenue. And then they say, all right, we're just not going to continue with this product.
well, you haven't addressed the customer though. What if this is an impact to the customer, whereas I deploy this and the whole thing that you've been publishing is the ease of it, rather than have to go in, data connector, find the applicable and relevant analytic rules, go set up the playbooks for SOAR and a few other things, and that's time consuming. But if I can do this automatically, but you don't tell me, I would like to think that they have vetted this at least.
It's not whether or not it works or whatever. It's
Mhm.
just Microsoft went after the ISVs to get money out of them,
Yeah.
when the ISVs had significant investment building for the platform.
Now, if you
And so
ask me,
go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead and finish your thought, Frank.
No, so I just say that I hope that does not happen to the solution providers here and then put customers in bad spots.
I think the way this is being presented, that this is something that is a benefit to the customer rather than and make a low lift for the solution provider, right? Because the quicker I can get this deployed out for things that I'm running as a workload, I can get things into Sentinel, helps Sentinel become more readily adopted. And I hope that the the vetting process from the security vendor to Microsoft is, okay, this is not going to give us a black eye, is it? If we deploy this and someone says, oh, yeah, there is a cost, because if you had deployed this manually, it still will be the same cost. We're just saving you time in deployment and in administration. So if there was a cost for all of these things, right, not to the ISV, but to the customer, that's reasonable. You would pay for it if you did it manually, right? If you run in a playbook, you set up a syslog, whatever. I have yet to deploy one of these because some of these solutions are big boy
Right.
solutions. I don't run these in my lab.
I'm just saying that Microsoft now has a track record when they set up a solution marketplace to go after the ISVs for revenue. They have that track record now, and I hope that that does not go here. But when I would be looking at solutions in here, I would actually at that point in time be taking that into consideration. That's all I'm saying.
So one other thing
I just like
that
to be a downer on this whole situation, then I have to, I have to move away from beating up on watch lists to beating up on solutions now. So, that's the way I got to go. But,
No.
I mean, if I can bring this out now, so then that can be, answered and ISVs know this information or whatever, I much rather have something publicly stated about that so people can make an informed decision versus the other way. So, I mean, I'll still keep hitting on this now since I can't beat up on watch lists, but that's the thing so of course it's a great feature, just as long as it's not.
two guys named Rocco and Bruno are going to catch you outside your car from the from the Power Automate side. Dynamics going to go, seems like you got a problem with our protection fees, huh? Come with us.
That's exactly the way that I put it. Is you have to pay Microsoft protection fees, and that's what the ISV Connect platform or program is all about. Paying and they basically were saying that in the beginning, but now they're trying to find what value do you have. Okay,
so go back to one thing that Rod said, not to overcorrect him, but trust but verify. There is a cost. Some of these solutions do have an underlying cost, and they call it out.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not the cost. Do you have to go set the connector up first? Like in the Azure Continuous Threat Monitoring for Dynamics, it says you got to go update the connector first. So you really should read through how to do it before just clicking on it. But there's an asterisk. So some of them do have some work external to the solution. I don't know what the.
Yeah, I mean that should be that's expected.
So some of them have been developed correctly. Some of them haven't. That's
the way to look at it.
Yeah.
What we got next?
We have the new hunting dashboard refresh.
Except it doesn't work.
Yeah.
We'll have it. It'll be fixed on Friday.
You know what else is broken? We'll talk about it if we got no time.
Go ahead.
Why? Scroll back up to the top. Maybe it's just old, but why do you need to say proactive threat hunting, right? Is it reactive threat hunting? I would think, you know.
Yeah.
But it is broken. And something else is broken in some of the workbooks. They're dying on the vine if you do updates. So that
Well,
can be another topic.
this is given, as drives me crazy is that the term threat hunting, right? I mean, realistically speaking, it is proactive, but unfortunately now people are classifying. I've seen people start classifying threat hunting as proactive. I've seen them put it as I forget the terms that they're using now when it's part of an incident response scenario, that they're calling it threat hunting. I mean, um, when people are getting indicators of compromise and then they're running scans on it, people are calling that threat hunting. So unfortunately, where there was a big push, I think, in the industry to make sure that it was threat hunting, it was always considered proactive. A lot of the material that I see coming out nowadays, especially from Microsoft, puts threat hunting into those 3 to 4 different categories and kind of puts it all in there. I think it makes it easier for people to understand when they're in the portals and they're doing threat hunting and they're able to write queries. And they consider that threat hunting, going out writing the queries. So yeah, that's been driving me crazy the way that they've been doing that. But I've been seeing that terminology used more and more now.
Whether you agree on how the word, what adjective you put in front of a suffix behind it, threat hunting is a thing now because you're starting to see job postings and requirements to say experience in threat hunting. So if I talk to some of my application guys, they think it is, sometimes they're framing it as bug bounties, right? I'm going to go find this within it, right? There's no right answer. That's the good part about our job. It could be as fluid as you have creativity, right? So
Yep.
but seeing job listings saying looking for experienced threat hunters, like what does that mean?
So when this is working,
So
what does it do?
I'm going to correct myself. It is working now. It's fixed. So
You sure?
Okay.
it is. The thing that wasn't working. So this is dashboard refresh. The thing that wasn't working. So there's been a refresh of the timeline of the MITRE attack, the framework tactics up at top.
Okay.
What wasn't working is you would click on it and it wouldn't sort by whatever that tactic was. But now it actually works. I just clicked on all of them and they all work. So I clicked on pre-attack. There's 6 pre-attacks. It automatically pulls up all 6 of those. So there's that piece. Another piece which customers have been asking for, which was originally part of this capability, was to go in here and click the button that says run all queries. And it literally ran all 209 queries to show you whether or not there were results, increments and results for any of the queries. But they took that away because it does consume some resources. It's actually pretty quick still, but the ability that's been brought back. Run all queries. It literally runs all 209. And what you do is you look for those queries that produce results, and you know that those are some things that you need to be aware of, whether or not they're threatening or not. You need to be aware of with your environment. There's something that exists, whether it's a rare process or whatever happens to be, and then you can click those little stars on the left-hand side, mark them as favorites, so that every time now when you go into the hunting blade, it's automatically going to run your favorites, so you can look for spikes, anomalies, and data, right? So it helps to try to better efficientize, I guess, if that's a word, the hunting process, because it is a manual process, right? It is a proactive. You have to actually think about doing it. It has to be
But
part of your test.
just turn every single one of these into a live stream, then you'll be fine.
Wow. Yeah.
So crazy about this is that I'm looking at the screenshot. I'm looking at my lab. On my pre-attack, I have 0. And this one has 13 initial, right? I got 31. I got 26. So it seems like everything in my portal is double what's being shown in the screenshot.
Is there do you have any kind of filter right next to the search queries box?
No.
No filter at all? Because I have like 6 pre-attack, 34 initial access without any filter.
So no filter.
Well, maybe they fixed mine because they knew I was complaining about it. So I don't know.
I'm gonna look at it. Says, matter of fact, it's telling me to add filter. I have 0 filters. I have if you start from the left to the right, starting with pre-attack.
Yeah.
I have 0, 31, 26, 50, 26, 15, 17, discovery 11, lateral 12,
Yeah, but
collection
I mean, they have
24.
one in here called test, which is an initial access.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's some
This
custom
isn't the
stuff in
real
there.
deal.
Oh, I
though.
see the custom queries now. I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you might have some pre-attack stuff, right? All right. Okay.
All right. So who watches the SOC team, enabling audit risk teams to monitor the SOC? I found this an interesting title. I did not read it.
It's an interesting topic, really.
It is a topic that a lot of security individuals don't broach.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's when you start making executives realize what these guys have, these godlike powers, right? Who's watching them? And so in the Navy, we had something called two-person concept. I worked on nuclear weapons in the military. And
So like everybody's got two people have a key around their neck, and then they have to put it in.
No, it's like any work that you did on a sensitive asset, you had to be accompanied by someone who was as skilled or more than you were, so that if you did something, they could detect it. Like if Rod was to go and make a change in something, Rod is more skilled in Sentinel than I am. I may not detect it that he bypassed a Sentinel rule or log or something that allowed me to see that he was going in and pulling stuff out of Key Vault, right? He modified a query or analytic or something. So two-person concept is that two people of equal skill to be able to effectively determine if someone circumvents or modifies a sensitive system that would not be detected by somebody who had lesser skill or experience. But when you look at this, think about it. You got a point. I can do what I want. If you can't detect me, right? That's a sensitive thing. You can mitigate this, right? By using something such as PIM, right? Why are you elevating your privileges to do work, especially out of hours when this is not your working hours? So there are things to do this, but this has sort of been addressed a while back. Rod, you've been working with Sentinel long enough. Remember before then there was no audit of what queries were run, but now they add, now you can see what queries were run and say a history of that, right? And
so what is this checking here? I'm kind of confused. What is it auditing?
Well, if you're running Sentinel and you set up your infrastructure in best use cases, you should have your resources to a dedicated series of resource groups. So if I can see modifications to resource groups, workloads within that resource group, it helps me understand if someone is going in. This is nothing more than zero trust. Everybody's an adversary, internal and external. It just so happens that the external people are bad guys deliberate, and internal people are bad guys both deliberate and dumb.
Yeah.
Right? They do dumb stuff. Right.
This has taken the security operations center, the security team, and sending their activity to a separate workspace that can be monitored and restricted access, right? So it's two different log analytics workspace, one that our security people focus on, and another one that we're just literally capturing their activity within the SOC.
We can't really say customers that do this. So I won't say the customer name, but it was a customer, Frank, that you told me to go watch their presentation that I'm going to watch tomorrow.
Right. Everybody knows who that is.
Okay. So KPMG, actually. I can say it. I mean, they did a WinWire for Microsoft, right? Say, hey, we're using this product, but their infrastructure, I don't know if they use the MSSP, but they act as their own. I mean, they're large. And so everybody pays for the SOC team to act as their internal MSSP. I don't know if they have an external entity that helps them out with this. I sort of thought they did, but if you don't know how they are put together, they needed this because all the subsequent other security things, KPMG has a bunch of member firms. They all have their own security team, CISO. They sort of defer to the SOC team's security lead, right? So I was part of the early working with those guys. I learned a lot, right? Like I didn't think about that. So when they built this out, they had to take everything from who pays for it, which is always the most important thing, to data sovereignty,
Right.
and geographic location, things as such as a 2-second delay was unacceptable because they believe that a bad security actor can insert themselves within that 2-second window if they can determine where that visibility gap was, right? Things that 2 seconds seem like a short time for us. That's a lifetime for computers, right? A lifetime.
Yeah. If you ask Data from Star Trek Next Generation.
Yeah, there you go, right? I'm a big Star Trek guy. I love Star. I'm going to go watch Star Trek Discovery tonight, man. They got some new episodes. But this is just watching to do this. I'll tell you what this is really about. SOC teams need to understand if someone made a change and why there may not have been a bad result of it. To an auditor, you had a breach because you cannot effectively discern this. How long was I exposed? You made this change, so you lost this actionable intelligence or this operational insight. While nothing bad happened, you exposed. I give you a case in point. I ran out the house one day to catch up with my running group, so I slammed the door behind me. But instead of the door latching, it flew wide open. So the door was open for hours. My wife came home and hit the roof. Nothing bad happened. Nobody came into the house and stole anything. We got a couple of bumblebees in the house, right? But you couldn't tell me that there were ninjas lurking in the shadows to get her because the door was left open, right? So being able to understand if I did something that could have lowered my effectiveness may be one use for this right here. Now, I do not know why I know Sarah. I don't know why they made this a topic. Somebody must have asked for it. You know?
Yep. Hey, did you watch that presentation, Rod?
The one you sent? No, I haven't had a chance yet. I've literally had training all this week. My brain's fried.
What do you mean training?
So it's role training, actually. It's supposed to be technical immersion. And today was all about Sentinel. And I was kind of getting excited because there's going to be some labs. And they distributed the labs, and it's literally the workshops that I deliver. I'm like, holy crap. So
you thought you were about to get something new, right?
yeah, I was kind of excited, but
do the SC200 labs off of GitHub, then you'll have, have some fun with that. And what is that toy that you have over there, Rod, to close out everything?
Oh, so got a new Steve Austin. It's the astronaut version, and also look at this, man. It's an old. Can you see that? Bionic bits. My best friend bought that for me, so
can you say intervention?
I want to at this point, so yeah.
We'll figure it out, right?
Hey, last thing, you didn't catch something that was new.
What's that?
Another Azure Sentinel feature that we released this week is the ability to import and export in the UI. We've been able to do it through PowerShell and API before, but analytics rules. So you can export bulk up to 50 and then import all 50 if you want, or however many that you export up to 50. So
excellent.
I wrote that months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't I do that, Frank? Didn't you tell me to put that on GitHub when I figure out how to export all the queries out and then import them in, and then I did the analytic rules?
They thought you were stuck in a Mexican jail. They didn't need your approval, so they went ahead and released it.
It is super useful though to be able to do that, and then MSSPs would love this, right? So that if you're onboarding people and you need to grab a template of, combine that with solutions, and then create myself an import thing to get people base level and then go. It makes sense. Shout out to whoever wrote that. Was it our guy who was on well, he's not on the engineering team, he wouldn't have done it, but what's his name out of Texas? Jing, the rapper.
Did Jing do it? No, this is built into the UI. It's not even a playbook.
Oh, okay. I thought Jing did it.
So
we got to get him back on, man. Is he doing okay? How's he doing?
So I reached out to him last week or week before because I hadn't heard from him for a while, and he said he was so slam busy. So I need to reach out to him again.
Yeah,
I miss him.
Isn't it like all you Microsoft people find out what your job's going to be when it comes to July or something like that? What's the deal?
There's always some sort of reorg.
I don't have a job, man. Shit.
My job never changes. I'm fortunate. I just get to do what I want. My title changes. I just do the same thing.
There you go. All right, we're running up against time here, and you know, I wish you had a better outlook, better situation for your race there, Edward.
Yeah.
No. I took the positive. I got to go on vacation with my lovely bride that turned 50. She looks not a day over 30, right? So I'm loving that. She was extremely happy. And then I know I'm in shape. You never know whether I'm running, you never know until you get into live fire. So even Olympic athletes would tell you, to the amateur guy, when you compete, you still get butterflies. When you line up, Rod, aren't you a marathoner too? Don't you run?
I run the crazy miles. Yeah.
You're ultra, right?
Yeah.
You always wonder the little crazy stuff. Am I going to have to use the bathroom? Am I going to pass out? You know, did I eat the wrong things? Like my pre-race, the night before meal, always sushi. I always think I want something that's easily digestible. I'm up in the morning, warm shower. I don't care if it's the summer. Get outside, 50 sit-ups, 50 push-ups, 50 jumping jacks, 50 squats. Get a bead of sweat on your head. You line up, and you do it. So I love the thrill. Frank accuses me of winning. He thinks winning is the only thing, right? And not for me. I like the competition, right?
Well, and now you've told everyone what happened and how fast you were. Everybody's gonna be afraid of you now. That's actually good stuff.
Oh man, shit. Even I had not gone the wrong way. I might have finished 32nd of 35th, looking at all the overall times.
That's pretty good.
Let me put it this way. Had I stayed on course, I was projected to finish in about 1 hour and 27 minutes, 126 or something. The winning time was 111. So that guy could have ran the loop that I went and still caught me on the backside.
So Brody, in your Edward to-do list in Discord, he put in there to do SC exam, arrive on time this time. Now he's adding in there to do stay on course. So there you go.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. I'll remember that, Brody. I got you, brother. But my wife,
I'm serious about buying that picture of you with that group.
Yeah. If you go through that race, you should see pictures of me. My bib was 1915. That was my bib, 1915.
We can raffle it off.
No, I'm not raffling off, man.
Make it a NFT.
In a non-fungible thing. I didn't do anything spectacular, man. But you know what? I'm an old man. I'm 52.
That's awesome.
So I'll be 53 this year. So barring anything catastrophe happen to me, I think I do pretty well.
Yep.
And it's good to run with the young guys. It's good to still know that your physical limitations. We all die old, cold, and alone. That's how we're gonna end, right? But to see my boys that are so young and strong now, oh my God, in their 30s, I mean, they're just you can't do anything with them, right? But no,
all right, when's the next one?
I'm thinking about running the local inaugural half marathon here June 26th. It's called it's in Sugar Hill, Georgia. It's called Made in America Half Marathon. I may give it a shot. It's local. It's about 35 minutes from my house. The difference being it's hot here. Even if the race started at 7:30, man, about 8:30, you start cooking. Right, your oil lighter come on, transmission starts slipping. Then they say, man, everything on your dash comes on, right? Your low water fluid light, everything starts to come on, right? And so I may do it. We'll see. But hey, man, it's good to be back. It's good to see both of your faces, hear your voices. Rod, thanks so much for covering. Brody, thanks so much for covering. Nathan, if you're listening, thanks so much for covering. Not leaving Frank without any adult supervision. It really worried me. It's no telling what he would have talked about, right? Sounds like we have a guest for next week, man. I'm looking forward to it. So let's do it, man. Let's keep doing the good work and put out the good word.
All right, until next week.